go. We're back again with Aziza Scheidereiter from CHS Guns and Ammunition in Somerset West. Rian Kutsia, Fortis Proactive Defense Solutions. We're situated up here in Pretoria, and we are continuing our chat about choosing the right firearm for yourself if you are a lady. Aziza, welcome back to part 2.
Hi.
Okay, so at the end of the first part of this video, you mentioned that you don't want to mention brands, but I'm going to push you a little bit on that one now. So if you're looking at a balance between reliability, ease of use, ease of concealment, and ease of shooting. Are there specific handguns that you would recommend for women?
So yes, definitely. One of my favorite guns personally to carry is a Glock 19.
Okay.
Admittedly, that is a little big for a lot of people to conceal. Keep in mind, my wardrobe, I work in a gun shop, so I wear baggy t-shirts, I dress in tights, and everyone's going to expect me to have a firearm anyway. So
yeah.
When I have the opportunity to carry my 19, it's my 19. Glock is and has always been, and everybody that knows me on an online setting knows I am probably the ultimate Glock fangirl. But I'm a Glock fangirl for a reason. I've never struggled to get hold of parts. They just work. It's maybe not the prettiest gun. Well, it's not ugly, but people want the frills, they want the fancies.
Exactly. Unless it's pink. I seem to call it
I do have a pink gun. I'll admit that. But it's a big Glock, so it's kind of ironic. So Glock has just proven itself over the years to be the reliable, I call it the Toyota of the gun world. It just always works. So I own a few, probably more than a handful. And besides the Glock 19, my next go-to is my Glock 48. So the Glock 48 has the same dimensions on the slide and the grip as your 19, but you've got a slim frame. Okay. So again, my guns are all unloaded. It is a single stack magazine. So I find that when you're concealing this, yes, the length of the grip does make a difference on your concealment, but the thickness adds to it as well. Depending on what kind of pants you're wearing, depending on the holster you're wearing, it adds to it. Then third in line, like I mentioned in the previous interview, is my teeny tiny little 9 short. This is a Glock 42. It is literally a pocket pistol. It is wonderful to conceal. The downside with a much smaller gun is that you have a little less purchase on the grip, and it also makes drawing the gun a little more cumbersome. So if you're in a situation where you need to reach your gun effectively and quickly, you probably want something a little longer. But
okay,
let me see if I can demonstrate in my holster over here. So the holster I'm wearing at the moment is the Enigma Express model from Fulster.
Okay.
I don't know if you're able to see it.
You can just make it out.
Here we go.
In a way. Yes.
In a waistband. It's got a hard Kydex holster attached to a carbon fiber plate. And then you've got a belt that goes around. So I'll release it for you. Here we go. Mine has a cover on it. Just to make it a little softer because it's quite a hard holster. But this conceals really nicely, and it's essentially a hybrid belly band scenario. So I don't wear belts unless I'm going to the shooting range. I don't do belts, and it took me a very long time to find a holster that. But I think we're discussing holsters next, so I'm not going to say too much about that.
Yes, yeah, I want to get to. So, I think we've covered this one. Aziza is a Glock girl through and through.
But I will add to that. There are some models that I'm going to add, or makes that I'm going to add to look at. So
Okay.
if you have a budget that extends a little further than mine, then one of my absolute favorite brands to look at is Sig Sauer. Sig
Okay.
Sauer makes a P365 series. In that series, they've got the 365, the 365X, and then the XL model. It's essentially the size of the slide or the length of the slide and barrel that differs in those models, and then the grip length. But
Okay.
superb firearm. They come out of the box with night sights and optic ready. Optic is something that we haven't really discussed in this interview, but if you decide at some point to go for an optic on your firearm, if it's optic ready, it makes your life a whole lot easier. Adding to the list, your Smith & Wesson Shield or Shield Plus are wonderful firearms to look at. And the same goes for actually a slightly less known brand in South Africa, but not in the world, would be Sturger. Sturger makes a model called the STR9, and they make a little compact version within that range as well. Comes with also optic ready, all the bells and whistles, lovely little gun to shoot. I actually took it to the range for a demo the other day, and I was pleasantly surprised by it and pleasantly surprised by the price. So a very nice, I want to almost call it a budget gun to look at, that gives you reliability and an agent that takes care of its brand. There are other brands available as well, like your Canex. They make an MC9. I think they've just launched a new MC9 as well. Also lovely guns, a little newer on the market than the others, but we've got a lot of people asking for them as well.
Okay. Okay, let's move on then to the carrying of these guns. I mean, I think it's a fact that concealed carry for women, because of your vastly varying array of clothing options, is quite a challenge. I think more of a challenge than for guys in general. In your experience, now I've covered that holster, we can maybe just look at it again quickly. In your experience, what are some of the best carry options and holster options on the market for women?
So I've got some samples here. Okay. It depends. It's such a broad question because every woman dresses differently. Every woman has a different body shape, and it's actually the same for men. So a lot of what I'm discussing now, I find that men struggle with similar problems. So if you have, like, I've got 2 children, right? So I don't have a flat stomach. That makes some carry options a little trickier for me. I've also carried in the 4 o'clock position for my entire life, so I prefer something that sits there. And I mean, I showed you the Enigma earlier. Fair disclaimer, this is not designed to sit at the 4 o'clock position. This is designed as an appendix holster. But I do a workaround and it works for me. So in all of this, you have to always remember that you need to find what works for you. Some people go through 6 or 7 holsters before they find what works for them. I'm hoping that we've done some of that R&D for people and that the advice we offer does steer you in a slightly better direction. But if I say appendix, because not all people or not all women will understand what that means, it means that your gun will literally sit over there. And it might be for some women more in the center, it might be slightly off center, it might be higher up, it might be lower down. That depends on the firearm, it depends on your body shape. You need to find your sweet spot. And this particular brand, Fulster, actually has videos available online demonstrating how you will find your sweet spot for appendix carry. So that's quite a valuable resource to look at. So this is really nice to play with. Sits inside waistband, doesn't require a belt. I usually have a little mag pouch that attaches to it as well, and I attach my knife either to this or to my pants. So versatile, solves a whole lot of problems. This is probably one of the most common style of holsters you'll find in the gun shops. It's just your standard inside waistband Kydex holster that comes with either an over-the-belt clip or with a J clip, which is slightly smaller. if you're wearing a belt, it's an option. It doesn't work for me. I find
Oh,
it doesn't conceal as nicely. It sticks out more. Draw from this, though, is probably easier and quicker than from the previous option. These also tend to be a whole lot cheaper. So the first one I showed you is about 5 times the price of this. So it's an investment. And once
mm,
you've paid that amount of money, you want to be sure that it works for you.
yes.
Then we have, actually, let me do this one first. This was what I first started carrying in. Unfortunately, this is a discontinued brand, but it's a belly band. It literally is a band that goes around your belly. So
Okay.
this works really nicely for concealment. It has its downfalls. So it is a soft holster, and though it's a compression holster, so it runs taut over your trigger guard. So it does
Mm,
shield your trigger. It is still a risk factor with this kind of holster. So I definitely wouldn't wear this appendix. I would probably just stick to a safer 3 or 4 o'clock position on a belly band. But if
mm.
you lead a very active lifestyle, I find that either the Filster Enigma Express or something like this works really nicely for an active lifestyle where you're cycling or running or even gymming.
I see that even has little purple strickies in it.
Yes, it's very cute and feminine, isn't it? And
Yes.
what I liked about this was it's got a whole lot of pockets. So whether
Okay.
it's your mag or your knife, you can literally be G.I. Jane undercover. Like, there you go. So
Okay.
everything has its place in this belly band. And this particular brand was very, very nice to use because some of the pockets actually have a rare earth magnet. So you can put your gun in here and turn the band upside down, and the gun doesn't
Mm,
just simply fall out. It will if you wiggle it enough, but the concept behind it was a little bit of extra retention. Though I find with this and with the Filster, the retention or the tightness of your pants also aids in the retention. And your pants, by the way, also play a very big role in your concealment. So if you've
mm.
got pants that are slightly higher waisted, I find that they tuck the gun in a lot better than something low waisted. So the
Yeah.
gun tends to cant out more away from your body, therefore making it less concealed. So belly band, if you can find a really decent quality one, there are a lot of cheap ones on the market that I probably wouldn't trust.
Mm.
But yeah, like I said, this brand unfortunately is discontinued now.
Oh,
And then you could also, I know you had off body carry mentioned somewhere as well.
yeah. Well,
Um,
that's we can just carry on with that because I wanted to ask about. I just refer
okay.
to it as purse carry. Pros and cons of that, and if you think it's a good idea.
It is not a good idea at all. It's a
Mm.
terrible idea because if you're going to be targeted, the very first thing somebody is going to grab from you is your handbag. So you're making yourself very vulnerable there. It's very, very difficult to draw from a handbag. And I've unfortunately seen over the years a lot of ladies that end up tossing their gun in the bag with everything else that's in there. And if you're anything like me, there's just
Mm.
about anything in that handbag. There's lipstick, I mean, I found a hammer in my handbag once. I'm still not sure how that got there. But it's not just difficult to reach amongst all of your stuff, but if you don't have a trigger guard on your firearm, you also run the risk of something getting into your trigger guard and potentially pulling the trigger. So super unsafe. And if you have got a trigger guard on the gun, it adds an extra step to your draw. So trigger guard is something that clips over your trigger guard, covering your trigger.
Mm.
But if you need to draw your gun out of your handbag and then still fiddle a trigger guard off of your handgun, you have most likely already lost the fight. So
Yes.
the only instance where I ever carried purse style carry is when I was 9 months pregnant.
Mm.
I got all the way up to 8 months pregnant with a belly band, and then after
Oh,
that, it just became impossible. And I actually bought a handbag specifically from the US that was designed. It's got a little pocket at the back with a quick release zip for easier access. But you have to be really aware of your surroundings. You preferably want something with reinforced straps so that if someone tries to grab your handbag or pull it off you, they can't just snap the strap or get it off you easily. So while there might be one or two situations where it's warranted every now and then, or if you're going, one of the concerns was when I was pregnant, you obviously have to go into doctor's offices and that kind of thing. Not everybody takes well to you getting undressed and having a gun on you.
Yeah.
That kind of, yeah. But otherwise, would not recommend. If you have to carry off body or purse carry, then not in your handbag. You get a specific holster that meets those needs, or bag, or whatever it may be. I know there's a couple of places that do it in South Africa that design their own. This is one that we're a big fan of from a very popular brand in the US called 511. So this is what they call a 511 select carry pistol pouch. It's a mouthful. This is designed to be dedicated just to your gun. You don't put anything else in there. No lipstick, no anything, no personal items, nothing. No credit cards, no cash. You can put cash in the tiny little side pockets that don't affect your gun. But in this main pocket, you would literally have, get a bigger gun for you. So your barrel tucks into the long bit there. There you go. And your gun sits snugly inside that pouch. So the very cool thing about this is if you're doing a lot of hiking or outdoor activities, or you're going to the beach with your family, then this as a little quick release tab, you can do both or just one, and you literally just rip this away. So you'd have your zip slightly closed, you rip away the tabs, and you have access to your gun, and it would sit in front of you. Some of our clients like to wear it crossbody, so they would wear it like this, which is also a nice method because the youngsters now wear the moon bags as a fashion statement, so you don't look out of place. You don't look like the old tunny carrying a moon bag anymore. But what concerns me with this type of draw is your barrel direction. So when you're releasing this, your barrel is pointing upwards near your face, which is not my favorite. So I would say leave it where it's meant to be, around your hips, and you can wear this in a whole lot of situations. You can also add, it's got little loops in the inside here for extra mags. So you can carry a mag in the gun and 2 extra mags in the bag, but it doesn't affect the draw.
And of course, 511, the quality is good generally.
It is fantastic quality, and because of the design, it doesn't look like a gun should fit into this bag. So if you take a look there, it bends around and it doesn't look like there's a gun in there. It looks far too small to carry a firearm. And then surprise, surprise, you can draw it out quite quickly. So for off-body carry, that would probably be my most popular choice over and above actually carrying it on you.
We've now spoken a lot about choosing a firearm. Aside from that, aside from choosing the right firearm for yourself, what would you say are some of the essential skills that a woman ought to have when it comes to being more effective at defending yourself?
So one of the biggest things is that according to our law and self-preservation, ideally you want to get out of a situation. You don't want to land up in a situation where you need to defend yourself with your firearm. I'd much rather get away. So the objective is always to try and get away first. If you can't, then obviously your first choice would be to use the tools available to you. That might not always be a firearm though, because depending on the distance between you and your attacker, you might not have time to reach your gun, or you might not be in the most ideal position to reach your firearm. So there, again, you want to find something that allows you either to create distance or to create the opportunity to get away before you use your firearm. So one of the I go running a lot. So I found a very cool product from a brand called Saber Red. They're a very famous brand in the US again that make pepper sprays, pepper gels. And this little guy, so you can see the packaging there. I chose pink because it's more obvious to see on camera. This little guy straps onto your hand. So if you're going running and you're putting yourself out there into a position where you might be more vulnerable, you don't want to go digging for something like this. Again, people tend to toss this into their car or into their handbag, and when they need it, they can't find it or can't access it. So this straps around your hand. Yeah, there you go. And I'm putting it on my left hand now. But there you go. So while you're running, you've got your hands free, but it's accessible to you. All you do is flick the little switch and push down. So very nice little gadget to have on hand. Again, if you can afford training to work with pepper spray, there are brilliant instructors, yourself included, who can teach you how to use a pepper spray effectively. And that would probably be as valuable as any of your firearm training. Pepper spray, and then a little bit of hand-to-hand stuff. So the likelihood of getting into a physical scuffle with someone is quite high. You're not always going to be able to reach your firearm. So I'm a big advocate for remaining fit. It is very, very important in our line or in our industry, and if you're carrying a firearm, to consider your fitness level. Because if you do get into a scuffle or a fight with somebody, you want to be able to keep up. And that relates back to then your hand-to-hand training, where you want to learn at least some basic skills of, again, how to get someone off you or how to create distance so that you can either use your firearm or get away. And then thirdly, your firearm training is vital. So if you're going to carry a firearm, you need to stay refreshed. You need to know how to use it. And your proficiency training, whilst it equips you with the basic knowledge, is, in my opinion, not enough if you want to be really proficient and able to access and use your firearm effectively. So again, seek out decent training providers like yourselves and make the effort, make the time, don't procrastinate it. Attend a course, set a goal for yourself. So at least a course a year. Start with the basics, even if it's a beginner's course, just to force yourself to remain proficient and use that firearm, as well as dry firing. So you can go to these courses and then go home and practice with your firearm at home in a safe environment, put your ammunition far away, use laser training cartridges or snap caps, whatever it may be, to relearn or rework on your draw, try and get on target faster, make sure your grip is still the right grip. All of the basics you can do over and over again. You can never do enough of it.
And I think also, and this is a very persistent discussion point throughout pretty much all my videos because it's so important, your mindset and your situational awareness.
So that the situational awareness, I find, comes with the training that you do. So if you're going to do the training, and even just your funny phenomenon, I don't know if you've heard it from people, but once a lot of my clients start doing or starting the firearm journey, so even if they're just at proficiency training, people tend to suddenly dream scenarios. I don't know if you've ever had that. I've had that plenty. You start dreaming scenarios based on not necessarily just firearms, but I think it's a heightened level of awareness that automatically happens when you've made the decision to carry a firearm and to defend your life. So your mindset has already engaged on that level. Then you just need guidance with the courses to understand what kind of behavior to look out for and what habits to get into to make sure that you are in the correct mindset or that you are safeguarding yourself as well as possible. But you have to make peace with the fact that if you're going to carry a firearm, you're carrying that firearm to defend your life. And if ever you get into the situation, there cannot be a hesitation. If your life is in immediate danger, you need to make peace with the fact that you might take somebody else's life. I have had lengthy arguments with people who have blatantly told me that they would rather be either raped or murdered than shoot another person or take somebody else's life. And while I
I
used to argue with people and try and change their minds, I've come to the realization that you can probably talk until you're blue in the face. If they haven't made that mindset shift, and if they don't value their life or their family's life enough to find that mindset, and it doesn't have to necessarily be with a firearm. You don't have to carry a firearm if you're not comfortable. But I'm a fighter. I choose to live and I choose to protect myself and my family. So that's a
yeah,
very important mindset to have.
yeah, I've probably because I've made this choice so very long ago in my life. That specific mindset, I I right or wrong, I refer to it as the victim mindset, and I battle to grasp it. But as you say, it's once people have made that choice, it's pointless to waste energy to try and convince them otherwise. Um, there are better things to do. To me, it's an easy choice to make. Your life, there should be no argument, but each to his own. I'm going to conclude by asking you what you consider some of the biggest myths about women and firearms, and how can they be addressed with education and training?
Well, I think we've discussed some of the myths already. One of the big ones being that snubbies are best suited for women. That's definitely one of the biggest myths. Um, and the fact that women are different to men when it comes to firearms. It's always, it gets to me when I see the question online of, I'm looking for something for my wife. So there's that specific, yes, I understand that someone might be trying to help their wife get into it, but the suggestions or comments that something like that tends to attract is what gets annoying, because we're not all that different. Yes, our wardrobes might differ, but the concept behind it all remains the same. Whether you're a man or you're a woman, you still need to make a decision on a firearm based on you. I've got some women that carry bigger guns than some of the men that we help. But again, circumstances dictate. So when a man is working in a very formal corporate setting, he might not be able to conceal a Glock 19 effectively, depending on his
Yeah,
wardrobe, depending on his body shape. So the myth that women and men are completely different in the carry game is not the case. Then obviously also the fact that women must carry smaller guns, that's absolute nonsense. Um, I can't even think of some of the myths. There's so many usually that I get irritated with online, and I can't even think of any vital ones. But yeah, we're not different. We might have slight differences in the location of where we carry because we have hips, or some of us have had kids, or whatever that might be, but it's usually minor adjustments compared to the men. So we're not special. Well, we're special, but we're not special, if you know what I mean.
yeah, and I mean, look, I've seen more than my share of women in my lifetime shoot, to know that if you start off with the premise that it's a woman, so I'm going to outshoot her, you are probably going to be in for a very rude awakening, because there are lots of women out there who spend a lot of time perfecting their shooting skills, and they can shoot. Um, they don't dream about it.
So,
You are one of them.
you know, actually, I have to practice really hard. I'm not one of the naturally skilled people, I'll admit that. But so I find that, and I mean that as least offensive as possible, women tend to listen better than men. And we also
It's
don't tend to sit with the same ego. I think men are generally naturally wired to have a bit of an ego. So there is that aspect where the women that I've trained over the years and dealt with, they're perfectly happy to admit that they're coming from a place of no knowledge at all. And they take the knowledge in and they process it and they practice over and over again. And we're also stubborn. If we don't get something right, we're going to make sure we get it right. Where if you add a bit of ego to it or embarrassment, then, yeah, not all men, I'm not generalizing here, but it
No,
tends to
but
be
it's true.
that.
I'm a guy. I can say it. We do have an ego problem very often. And anybody can arm wrestle me if they want to about that. Not really. I've got brittle bones, but I stand by the fact. I've seen it in action more than once. So, Aziza,
So,
I'm gonna end with that. Unless you've got something to add.
there was something I wanted to add and I've forgotten it. No, it'll come back to me afterwards. Sorry.
Inevitably, that's fine. Thank you so much for sharing some of your years and years of knowledge with us. I really appreciate it. I do trust that the viewers will find sufficient value in this. If you do, remember to click the like and subscribe button. Help us with the channel so we can reach more and more people. Aziza, thank you so much for your time. And I bid you farewell, and I hope you guys have a sunny weekend down there by the coast.
You are so welcome. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, and it was great to chat to you.
Thanks.